Hey guys, this is Allison from Alley Cat Creations. How are you? Please like, thumbs up it, share, subscribe, all those fun things. And if you get anything from my work, I connect the dot, an epiphany, a mind explosion, a new book to read, a new author to explore, artwork to create. It's over there. Please consider supporting my work. All the links are at the bottom of the description. Alleycatcreations211.com. I'm going to work on my website tomorrow. It's where you can find pyramids. I got to say on the bottom, but skulls, patriotic hearts, floral skulls, floral hearts. Sorry, because I have the floral skull. And there's more patriotic fun incoming. Really excited. So check me out there. And if you get anything from that and you're interested in purchasing, like paintings, I have paint and sips there. All the pyramids that are behind me. Alley Cat Creations211 at Gmail is where you can get me and you can see all the other fun stuff. And if you're interested, email me because that's how we do everything privately. Sorry, my brain's on loop. 3G memberships. It's a tier. It's one. That's all I have. And at the end of the month, I'm going to have my raffle on Friday Night Live. And I'm probably, because of Memorial Day, going to be giving away maybe one of my patriotic skulls or hearts. We'll see how much I make and when I make it, mind you. So check that out. You get free entries if you're a channel member. And I just uploaded a channel member only video that's an oracle reading. So I try to give back where I can, and I want to thank all the channel members for supporting me. And everybody that supports me, let's just face it. Today we're going to do the Inner Radiance, Chapter 5, Man and the Zodiac. And this is a part 1. I don't know how many parts it is. I read these books with you. But the Curtises have written a lot, and I've read a lot of their books. And the Zodiac is something they're very into. So don't know what direction they're going to take it here, but it shall be very interesting to see how it progresses as we go along. So sit tight, grab a drink, and let's get started. Part 1, the 12 signs. Well, the planets are not merely spheres twinkling in space and made to shine to no purpose, but they are the domains of various beings with whom the uninitiated are so far unacquainted, but who have, nevertheless, a mysterious, unbroken, and powerful connection with men and globes. Every heavenly body is a temple of a god, that these gods themselves are the temples of God, the unknown. There is nothing profane in the universe, end quote. The Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky. Quote, an immaculate white disk within a dull black background represents cosmos in eternity before the reawakening of still slumbering energy. The same disk, but with a central point, space and eternity in Pralaya, denotes the dawn of differentiation. It is a point in the mundane egg, the germ within it, which will become the universe, end quote, the Secret Doctrine, Blavatsky. In addition to that, which we have said elsewhere, as the relation of man to the zodiac, the stars, planets, angels, and the Garden of Eden, we wish to add the following further explanations. That which we call God or the great first cause is universally represented in symbology as a central point or creative dot in the circle of manifestation, the germ within the mundane egg, from which the manifested universe unfolds and the center around which it revolves. This divine dot may be compared to an arc light which radiates outward to a circumference, forming a circle of light, which is but a manifestation of the potencies of its central point. In the Vedic philosophy, the manifestation of the divine, poopy, dot, is described in terms of human form. Thus, heaven is his head, the sun and moon his eyes, the earth his feet, space his ears, and air his breath. Following the same symbology, man, made in the image of God, may be called the circumference or limit of a special outshining of his spiritual self or divine dot. Each human being would thus be a condensed and limited expression of one of the seven differentiated aspects of God, as manifested through the sevenfold Elohim or cosmic rays, though sorry, I can't see. Oh man, I lost my space. I found it. Sorry, guys. We'll reread. As manifested through the sevenfold Elohim or cosmic rays, through which the divine light of the central point or Godhead shines forth. Hence, in each individual, the spiritual sun shining through the higher self, man's individualized center or divine dot, becomes in its turn a primal point or a focus through which the divine light shines out to the circumference formed by the limits of the man's bodies, his environment, and his sphere of influence. The higher self thus radiates throughout its circle of manifestation the divine qualities and attributes received from the spiritual sun to the best of its ability, according to the development and purity of a man's body and the clarity of his reflecting power. Therefore, man's circumference or his sphere of influence contains at least potentially all the godlike power, beauty, and holiness of his divine or higher self, as well as the possibility of perfection which inheres in the divine dot or which he is an emanation, although more or less distorted by his density, lack of response to the inner light and his imperfections as a reflector of that light. But with all his imperfections, man is and must be, to some degree, a reflector of the universal God consciousness, shining through the limitations of the human personality, even though the light he radiates may be clouded by much that is crude and imperfect. Yet standing as he does as the chosen avenue of divine light, he must ultimately know as he is known and radiate even as he is the result of the radiation of the divine light. Although he may have to pass through much sorrow and suffering, much destruction, labor, and rebuilding, he learns to profit by his mistakes. It is precisely because man thus inherently possesses the attributes of divine force in his seven sacred centers that he is called the microcosm of the macrocosm, or the cosmos in miniature, an epitome of the universe, a sentient microcosm pulsating in silent harmony with the more stupendous macrocosm. Wow. Therefore, all the phenomena of the cosmos are connected with and reproduced in man. But if man determinately refuses even to try to correlate with, unfold, and manifest his innate God powers and chooses for his own gratification to live only in the outer consciousness of his animal self, that he may give free rein to the indulgence of his lower appetites and desires, then the centers which connect him with the seven planets of our solar system remain either undeveloped or their development remains subconscious, or below the threshold of his consciousness, and he remains unaware of them and their influences. Thus, although the brain of such an one may be highly developed, he remains little more than an intellectual animal, for his consciousness reaches no higher than the lower realms of the mental world and is used merely to make money, his God, to indulge his appetites, to strut before the world for admiration, and to glory in his ability to rise above his comrades, no matter how shameful and cruel the means used to obtain these ends. We all know that when a ray of white light is passed through a prism, it breaks up into 7 colors of the spectrum. As above, so below. The divine light, which is God, it reaches the limits of its special creation or circumference, man, shines through the prism of differentiation, and it's manifested as the 7 divine rays, the Elohim, or 7 planetary deities, which are the prismatic centers through which the white light of divinity passes to be differentiated into the 7 aspects through which God manifests in the objective worlds. To illustrate, if we had a lighthouse surrounded by 7 windows, the glass in each window being one of the 7 colors of the spectrum, the rays of pure white light in the center would not only send out light of different color through each window, but the colors would take different directions as they radiate out to the circumference. And as the potency of color is known, each color would have a different activity and sphere of influence, also an overlapping region where it blended with the colors on either side. If we hold such a picture in mind, we can apply it to the cosmos, God in the center of the 7 prismatic expressions, the Elohim, which stand round about his throne, and humanity at the circumference, and thus get a better comprehension of what the zodiacal and planetary forces are. For although God is reflected in all parts of the circumference, each part receives directly but a portion of the divine light, colored and differentiated according to the particular place on the circumference which he occupies. Moreover, since the colors are ever circling around the center, and since mankind, the circumference is divided into 12 tribes, or 12 projections of the Christ spirit, and its 12 differentiations or subsisting intelligences upon the plane of physical existence, man receives not only the influence of his parent ray, but of all the other rays as well. Hi, lighthouses everywhere, wherever you are. This is fantastic. The 12 tribes are therefore the 12 aspects of the power of God sent forth in humanity to accomplish their ultimate work of evolution in each age. It is not by accident that man struggling in this life, inwardly and outwardly anxious, lifts his heart up to the stars, which seem unmoved, inexactably fixed, untouched by all the stirs down here. Indeed, their rest and calm come back to him. Their quiet and their fixedness make him quiet and fixed. Does not man know that just as his wheel of life revolves from cradle to grave, the planets do from coming into being until setting? But above all, he, looking at the stars from below, is conscious of the fixedness in their revolution, the certainty in their whizzing, the law in their feariness. The law which bears all these things bears him also. This great thought that nothing proves to be chance is a thought which makes man quiet when regarding the starry sky above him. The biblical allegory of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden is an exemplification of all that we have said above. For while this allegory has its interpretation in the body of man, as we have explained elsewhere, it also has its cosmic application and it's outpictured in the zodiac. Looking at the zodiacal map, such as the one opposite page 30 in our key of destiny, which I read on this channel, we find paradise or Eden in the path of the sun during the summer season from Aries to Libra, after it has moved eastward from the winter solstice, Capricorn, the major, to the spring equinox, Aries, the resurrection. This point in Aries is called the gate of paradise and is formed by the horns of the ram. In the early spring, the ram goes before the flock and with his powerful curved horns tears up the thick underbrush of the past season and opens the gate or makes a path so that the sheep and lambs can find and feed upon the tender grass underneath. Hence, Aries is sometimes called the outstretched arms of the Christ, a symbol of the good shepherd who points out the path and leads his flock to the green pastures. I'm getting chills because I'm an Aries. In this Eden, we find Taurus, the bull, bearing upon his head the solar symbol, who toils for us that we may plow the ground and plant the seed or work in the vineyard of the Lord. In the dual sign Gemini, the portal of the temple, we find the dual soul, Adam and Eve. In Cancer, we partake of the nourishing milk in the breasts of the mother, nature. This sign, Cancer, rules the breasts, on which the dual Adam and Eve must feed at first. But as soon as we begin to partake of the fruits of the garden, we are confronted with the serpent, for we cannot be born again of a virgin Virgo and reach balance in Libra, the balances, until we have been tempted. The serpent is said to be more subtle than any beast of the field, although it is absurd to class the serpent among the beasts. Yet in the field of the zodiac, it is among the beasts of the cosmic field, for it is none other than the constellation Hydra, the serpent, which extends across the heavens from Cancer to Libra. It thus covers 4 signs, which is 1/3 of the zodiac, and hence it is the same dragon referred to in Revelation, whose tail drew the third part of the stars of heaven and did cast them to the earth. We cannot complete the tests, worked out the results, and acquire the wisdom of the serpent as long as we remain in Eden or evolving from Aries to Libra. Hence, we must descend into the lower or physical world and put on coats of skin or bodies of flesh. Astronomically, therefore, the fall occurs when the sun reaches the autumnal equinox in Libra, the point of balance, and begins to descend or fall into the southern hemisphere, the pit or the winter half of the years. After the experience in Cancer, whose influence tends strongly toward sensation and thus makes it the scene of our temptation, we enter the fiery sign Leo, the lion. Here, the fire of divine love touches our heart and develops our love and compassion, and also arouses its lower pole, sex. For without the development of these qualities, we cannot obtain our spiritual birth in the next sign, Virgo. And he born of the Virgin and reached the point of balance in Libra, where we can be guided henceforth by the characteristic of the sign intuition. For after we have received our spiritual birth, it is upon our awakened intuition that we must depend during the rest of our journey through the period of darkness while the sun is below the equator. We thus unfold and progress through these signs following the same events that nature passes through during the seasons as the sun journeys eastward through the garden eastward in Eden, until we have entered into the covenant of grace, Libra, at the end of our summer period. Some astrologers hold that Adam and Eve symbolize Gemini, the twins. Hence, as they fall from Eden and sink below the western horizon, the constellation Perseus, the angel with the flaming sword, appears in the east to guard the gates to Eden until we have passed through all the experiences of the lower physical world, the winter period of the soul, and have conquered death and reached our resurrection and ready to re-enter Eden, thus completing the cycle of manifestation or outgoing the cycle of necessity and becoming one with the Father in heaven. In common with the symbology of all spiritual truths, we must find them manifested on all planes. Hence, could we not find their expression both in the zodiac and in man, we would be justified in doubting their spiritual origin and universality. Applying this symbology to man, we find that in the path of the spiritual sun, as it finds expression through us, Eden is the perfected spiritual body which we inhabit while existing in the higher realms, but out of which man cast himself when he disobeyed the command not to eat of the fruit of the tree in the midst of the garden, and followed after the desires of the flesh instead of those of the higher self. In this personal application of the allegory, the angels who guard the gates of Eden are lords of karma, whose flaming swords, which turn every way, will keep mankind from entering into the higher spiritualized body, where he shall eat of the tree of life and live forevermore until through great toil and labor, and by the sweat of his brow, he has purified himself and lifted the curse which his disobedience brought upon himself and all the lower kingdoms. The Lord God who walked in the garden was not God the Father, but the embodiment of the law of good. This is made plain by the fact that when Adam and Eve ceased to live in harmony with the law, that mighty angel could no longer see them and could commune with them only when they answered the vibration of his call. Up to the time of their fall into matter, they were spiritual and semi-ethereal beings who had walked and talked or lived in perfect harmony with the higher aspects of the law. But by their disobedience and eating of the forbidden fruit, they hid themselves. Their vibrations were so lowered that the angel could not see them. Hence the angel was obliged to call, "Where art thou?" To which Adam answered, "I was afraid because I was naked." Only then did the Lord Law make for them coats of skin. In other words, they became completely clothed or incarnated in bodies of flesh on the physical plane. Just as at this point the earth became clothed with horns and thistles, antagonistic and opposing forms of life, because of man's misuse of his creative powers, and a result of his disobedience and sorrow has man eaten of the fruits of the earth ever since. Bum bum bum. Ever since this, ever since the disobedience of the early races who listened to the beguiling of the serpent forest, which led them into the black magic which resulted in the sinking of Atlantis, man has forgotten that the serpent was in reality Saturn the tester, one of the sons of God, who had to determine how man would use his newly acquired creative powers before he could be allowed to go on. The so-called temptation was but a test as man's ability either to use or abuse this divine gift. The power was given him not as a temptation, but as a step in evolution through which he must pass in perfect purity. Man has chosen to become as gods, knowing the evil through the misuse of this power, but the cycle closes, but must become as gods to know the good. And we're going to end it here because part two should be just as juicy and amazing. But I heart align with a lot of what's going on here. And I like the allegory of Eden and Adam and Eve. And I subscribe to that more than I do the literalistic version of such. Just absorb, take that in, and thrive. Sending each and every one of you love, light, compassion, grace, shielding, and protective energy. Please go within. Be the shoulder, be the lighthouse, seed your truths, light the path forward. I hope to see you all in the next one. Thank you for your support, your abundance, your likes, your shares, and your support. It means the world to me. Thank you. From the heart space. Go and align. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.